Esselamu Aleyküm ve Rahmetullahi ve Berekatuhu. Dear President Mehmet Fırıncı ağabey, Mr. Vice Chancellor, dear Rector, and dear guests, you are welcome all to the International Conference, People, Society, and Religion, the Risale-i Nur Perspective, organized by Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture in collaboration with 2 universities from Bangladesh and 3 universities from Turkey. We would like to express our thanks to Allah, Alhamdulillah, for bringing us together for His sake and for a noble purpose like the approval of Allah, Riza'an Lillah. You came here from other parts, from the other side of the world. We are honored and very happy to host you and be with you here. Let me give some information about the conference program. First, we have 1-hour inaugural session in which we have 2 speakers. The first speaker is Professor Dr. Muhammad Akhtaruzzaman, the Vice Chancellor of the University of Dhaka, Bangladesh. The second speaker is Professor Dr. Faris Kaya, a member of the Board of Trustees of IFCS. After a 15-minute break, we have a session in the morning in which we are going to listen to the presentations of 3 professors. After lunch and the prayers, we have the second session to begin at 2 p.m. After another break and Asr prayers, we'll have the last session at 4:15 p.m. The dinner will be at 6 p.m. There may be slight change in the timetable of the Arabic session. We have 2 sessions, by the way. One is English session here on the ground floor in this saloon, and the Arabic session is will take place at the first floor, the upper floor. In the Arabic, the timetable of Arabic session, there may be slight change in the timing. You will find the details in the conference program handout. Now I invite Mr. Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Muhammad Akhtaruzzaman and Professor Dr. Faris Kaya to the desk to make their first speeches.
Honorable Chair of this inaugural session of this International Conference on People, Society and Culture, Risale-i Nur Perspective, jointly organized by the major universities of 2 countries, Bangladesh and Turkey, including that of the University of Dhaka. I am very privileged to be here to address you all in this wonderful morning gathering. Honorable Chair of this session, Professor Dr. Faris Kaya, who happens to be also a mechanical engineering. He was one of the trustees of Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture. He was former professor of Yildiz Technical University. I have come to know. Yes. It's a privilege of mine to learn. And he is the key man who basically materialized the successful conference that Dhaka University convened, especially the Department of Arabic of my university last year. And you will be very happy to learn that this is the conference which is going to be taken place here just in consequence of the successful happening on that Dhaka University hosted last year. And also on the dais, Mr. Nafia Yeltsin, who is also one of the facilitators of this program and who also belongs to this wonderful Istanbul Foundation for Science and Culture. And I have also come to know that a very distinguished person who is the first row disciple, one of the first row disciples of Badiuzzaman Nursi, Muhammad Prinsi, who will be also joining this conference. And ladies and gentlemen, my colleagues from the University of Dhaka, and I have also come to know that colleagues from the different universities of Turkey, from Jordan, from Indonesia, they have also joined this conference. I am also very privileged to be here as a guest speaker and also in this inaugural session. And what should we say? I am very pleased to see very wonderful faces that we come across in our university campus. Professor Anisuzzaman, Professor Abu Bakr Siddiq, those are all senior professors of my university. They are also very kindly present in this conference. The chairman of the Department of Arabic, who played a very key role in organizing the Dhaka conference of Istanbul Foundation in 2017. Professor Yusuf, he is also here. And distinguished guests and participants, again, very good morning and Assalamu alaikum. At the outset, I would like to pay my greatest homage to the departed soul of Badiuzzaman Nursi, Sayyid Badiuzzaman Nursi, who is also called the Ustad. And I would like to say my ideas about this man, the great man, who played very important role in shaping and reshaping the Turkish society and culture. And the very title of this conference is People, Society and Culture, Risale-e-Nur Perspective. I think this conference will be focusing some important issues that will be dealing with the ideas and thoughts and philosophical thoughts of Badiuzzaman Nursi. Badiuzzaman Nursi is called, his full name is Aziz Ustad Badiuzzaman Sayyid Nursi, a man of 19th and 20th century. You know, he had the privilege to witness the happenings of the world history during the 19th and 20th century. 19th and 20th century, a man who witnessed many events that shaped and reshaped the world history, and he belongs to that era. And Ustad, that is teacher, master, he got this title. Badiuzzaman is also a very wonderful title he received because of his unique contribution and unique memory, unique knowledge in Islamic learning. That is why he earned the title Badiuzzaman. Badiuzzaman means uniqueness, is a very special place which he earned for his extraordinary knowledge in Islamic learning and culture. Therefore, I understand that this conference is rightly titled that People, Society, Culture, Risale-e-Nur Perspective. And I would also like to make a note on the why Badiuzzaman Nursi became so noted and why had he been able to make wonderful contribution to Islamic learning. Why he became a champion of the Turks. How? 2 points I would like to draw your attention on. 2 points. First, he was a man from Eastern Anatolia. Anatolia is in Asia Minor. Second, he was a Kurd. He was a Kurd. And this Kurd, that is Kurdi, is those group of people who always favored in cause, who always sided in favor of the Turks. That is the history of the Kurds. The Kurdish history is that they always sided with the Turks. And he was a Kurd. That is one point. The second point is Anatolia, because the Osmanlis, the history of the Osmanlis took place in Anatolia. So it is the predecessors of Badiuzzaman Nursi who basically shaped the Turkish history initially in the 13th century. In the 13th century, Osman, after whose name the Turks came to be known as Osmanlis, they emerged from Anatolia. And this man belongs to Anatolia. The Anatolia, the first-hand source is Anatolia and Kart. These 2 points, these 2 indicators clearly give us the impression that this gentleman will be in favor of the Turks' cause. And he, during his lifetime, always championed in favor of the Turkish cause, always. This is the genesis why this man could have been able to make very unique contribution to making things for the Turkish cause. That is the genesis, that he was a Kurd first and he was coming from Anatolia. And he witnessed 19th and 20th century's phenomenon. What were the phenomena? The phenomena were many. There were some reforms movement in the 19th century. The Tanzimat era and the Young Turks movement, all those were directed towards the reforms in Turkish society. The Tanzimat era in the 19th century and the Young Turks movement of 20th century, all these happenings were aimed at reforming Turkish society. And there were some extremism, there were some extreme ideas as well. You know, there were some extremism in a sense. The Constantinople, which was conquered by the Muslims, by the Osmanlis, back in the 15th century in 1453. In 1453, when Constantinople was conquered by the Muslims and the capital city was shifted from Bursa in Asia Minor to Istanbul, that formerly called Constantinople. This Constantinople was then built up with the ideas of the Islamic theology. How would we explain this? You know, Constantinople was also a very noted city. It was the capital city, and where Byzantine civilization grew up. But unfortunately, it is the fact of history that in the early 13th century, this Constantinople came under attack. This Constantinople was besieged by the Venetian armies and the merchants. Venetian merchants and armies, they occupied Constantinople and destroyed everything in a language of the history, and I can just quote, the Orthodox Church was Latinized, monasteries disappeared, wealth and churches carried off, university closed, learning, literature vanished, books, libraries lost, works of art destroyed. Original works of Praxiteles and Aristotle were never seen again. That happened in the 13th century to Constantinople. Constantinople witnessed this barbaric attack in the early 13th century in 1204. But after the conquest of the Muslims in 1453, this Constantinople was then being built up, and then the cradle of civilization again began in Constantinople. Renaissance in European history just made it start. Renaissance in European history made it start with the fall of Constantinople at the hands of the Osmanlis. With the fall of Constantinople at the hands of Osmanlis, Renaissance in Europe began. That is the turning point in history. The 1453 is basically a very good turning point in history because that gave a prelude to the rise of civilization that was destroyed in the 13th century. So this is one phase, very important phase of European history that Osmanlis made in 15th century. What Nursi told? Nursi was revisiting the past history. Nursi's attempt was to revisit the past achievement of the Muslims that they made in the 15th century, 16th century, 17th century. When 18th, 19th, 20th century approached, then history began to take a new turn. History began to take a new turn in a sense. Extremist idea began to emerge. Classical Muslim achievement and contributions were being replaced. That were happening in the 19th and 20th century. That Nursi witnessed. Then he could not comply with all these ideas then prevalent in the 19th and 20th century Turkey or 19th and 20th century Europe. Because the Tanzimat era during the time of Abdul Majid and the Young Turks movement in the early 20th century did not go with the line of thoughts that Nursi used to hold. What Nursi used to hold? Nursi wanted to have a university that will be combining secular sciences and religious sciences. Nursi began to think about that a dialogue has to be started between Sufism, madrasa education, and the traditional European science and technology, European science and culture. there has to be a blend between this line of thoughts, that is traditional European science and culture, madrasa education, and tasawwuf or Sufism. In Nursi's mind, he thought of the blending of these new ideas. That was his thought. Very accommodative. He did not want to exclude any of the ideas. He was accommodative. He was thinking of having the extant ideas and knowledge in the same platform. That was the idea of Nursi, so far I understand. Then he had also to witness some other untoward happenings. What were those happenings? He was an educationist. He was in the Education Reform Committee during the time of Abdul Majid, and he had also an offer from Kamal Ataturk during the time of the first half of the 20th century, that is 1916. He got the offer from Kamal Ataturk, from the father of the Turkish nation, when the republic was established in after the First World War in 1918. Then he also got this offer that he will be the minister, but Nursi did not accept it. Nursi rather very famously rejected the proposal because Kamalism was not going in line with Nursi's thought. Kamalism, what was Kamalism? Kamalism, we have 6 points at least. Now you will be able to understand why Kamalism did not go in line with Nursi's thought. Kamalism number 1, republicism. Republicism means replacement of monarchy with rule of law. Monarchy was the Caliphate era, the Sultanate era. That he styled as monarchism. That is the Caliphate or Sultanate era that has been styled as monarchism. That's replacement to be made by rule of law. That was the republicism. Populism, political power belongs to the citizenship and nation state. Secularism, non-interference of church and mosque. Reformism, replacement of traditional institutions and concept with modern institutions. These were Kamalism. Nursi was arguing in favor of the classical ideas that his predecessors praised in the 15th, 16th century. Nursi was in favor of those classical ideas because Turkey began to lose its power and majesty after its defeat at the First World War. And in joining First World War was not the idea of Nursi. Nursi was also captured during the First World War. He was captured, he was brought back to Russia, and he was released only in 1918 when the First World War came to an end. After the First World War came to an end, Nursi was released and he was brought back to Istanbul, to his favorite place. And then Kamal approached him to make him minister, which he famously rejected. But the thing is this, Nursi was preaching the ideas that his predecessors achieved during the preceding centuries, that is 15, 16, 17 and 18 centuries. Over these centuries, what the Turks, the Osmanlis earned for Constantinople, for the Turks, that was the favorite ideas to Nursi. Nursi was in favor of that classical period when Constantinople and the nation and the Turks as a nation got, due to the unique contributions made by his predecessors, mainly the Osmanlis belonging to the House of Osman. Nursi was always in favor of that ideas. Therefore, his ideas did not go with the 20th century reformist. I would also like to cite one of the historians' remark on the issue when Turks got defeat at the First World War. Historian Price, he has a very wonderful book on the modern Turkish history. He told in 1918 the Turks lost an empire. Of course, Turks joined with the Germany, and this coalition was defeated by Russia and England-led Allied power, you know. In 1918, the Turks lost an empire, but gained a nation. You just note it. Gained a nation healthy once more. That is the important point I would like to draw your kind attention. Historian Price is making this remark that a nation healthy once more as Osmanlis were. You just note it. As Osmanlis were when they first emerged from Asia Minor 600 years back. 600 years back, when the Osmanlis emerged as a very wonderful power and made unique contributions in making the Turkish nation, that was again repeated with the defeat of Turks in 1918, and therefore the historian remarks that in 1918 the Turks lost an empire but gained a nation healthy once more as the Osmanlis were when they were emerged from the Asia Minor 600 years back. 600 years back, that means that 600 years back when the Osmanlis emerged from Asia Minor, particularly from Anatolia, then they were a very energetic, a very wealthy and very contributing nation in world history. That is the remark of a modern historian who deals with the history of Turks and Europe. He is making this. That means that in 600 years back, these Osmanlis had been contributing in Turkish civilization. That is the remark. So Nursi was basically in favor of that classical period. Classical period means the 15th, 16th and 17th century, when they earned reputation, when they built Constantinople, when they made a wonderful nation that became the lord of the whole world, and their empire was then scattered all over three continents, Europe, Asia and Africa. Over these three continents, the predecessors of Badiüzzaman Nursi had the control and became monarch, they became lord over these three continents, the parts of these three continents. But they began to lose it after the defeat of First World War. After the defeat of First World War, Turkey was losing all his supremacy from different parts of the world, and then became very confined to this small state of Turkey. So Nursi was always in favor of the classical period, which made Turks the great in world history, which made Turks great in all achievement. That was the unique stance of Nursi inside of the Turks. Nursi, if we cite one of his spiritual side, we will be noticing that he was banished, he was exiled, he was captured, his writings were kept in abeyance, was not allowed to get it printed. All this happened to Nursi. He was imprisoned. He was exiled, he was imprisoned, he was banished, he was confined, his writings were not allowed to get printed. All this happening. He was captured by Russian forces. All this happened to Nursi. But what did Nursi tell? Nursi told all these persecutions and hardship inflicted upon me are blessings of Allah. All this persecution and hardship inflicted upon me over the years, in the preceding years. Banishment, exilement, captured, imprisonment, all these happenings, all these punishment and persecutions, Nursi considered as blessings of Allah. To Nursi, these were the blessings of Allah. Why? That we need to address. Why Nursi considered this persecution and punishment inflicted on him by human beings, which he considered as blessings of Allah? Why? Here lies the spiritualism, here lies the inner interpretation of Nursi's stance. Nursi's stance will explain why do we need to understand in this way. That I am coming to explain. And last night when I was having a dinner party with one of my colleagues from your former university, that is Professor Omar, an assistant professor of food engineering, Professor Omar, he was hosting me last night in a wonderful gathering where Dr. Daud, who is currently pursuing his study in Bangladesh, and Salahuddin Saidi was present, and also some of the distinguished professors from Yildiz Technical University also joined that dinner party. And then one of the flash made by Nursi was read out to the audience. That was the advice for the sick, for the ill people, for the sick people. Nursi was giving advice to the sick people that you take this sickness and illness as blessings, because illness lasts long, happiness lasts for a while. That was the wasa, that was the advice at the comment of Nursi. Nursi was telling that happiness lasts while, a little, it's a very small span of time, but illness lasts long, because you just become impatient, therefore it lasts long. Nursi's advice was to hold patience and consider this illness as blessings, because when you will become ill, then you will be able to serve Allah, then you will be able to worship Allah, then you will be forced to take shelter of Allah. So when you go to take shelter of Allah, then certainly it is blessings for you. So one, when gets time and if seeks shelter from Allah, can get time, and this relationship between the slave and the Lord is wonderful. That is why Nursi considered all these happenings, all these persecutions and injustices made by human beings as blessings of Allah. Because if you become ill, you will get time to worship Allah, you will get time to take shelter from Allah, to take protection, to seek protection from Allah. These are all blessings, because one who seeks protection from Allah is certainly a blessed man, not to others, but Allah is certainly a blessed man. Nursi got this wonderful opportunity in seeking blessings from Allah when these persecutions came upon him, when he got all these injustices at the hands of the ruling parties. Then he got enough time. When he was in jail, when he was in banishment, when he was captured, then he got enough time to seek protection of Allah. He got then every shelter and protection from Allah. Therefore, Allah granted him to write his wonderful writings, 6,000 pages of Quranic commentary that he wrote is wonderful, unique. And that is why, that is the blessings of Allah. Otherwise, he would not have been able to write this voluminous work. He could not be able to produce this voluminous work. 6,000 pages of Quranic commentary in which he has explained his ideas to the whole, to not only to the Turkish nation, but to the nation at large of the world. That was his unique contributions in history, that he has explained Quran in the way that is the guiding, that shows the path for each and every man, every members of the human beings, not confined to any Turkish nation, but nations all over the world. That is the Risale-i Nur, and it is also this nomenclature of Risale-i Nur is also important. Nomenclature could have been otherwise, not Risale-i Nur, but it has been titled as Risale-i Nur, letters of divine light. Nursi has considered is letters of writings of divine light. That it has been written by Nursi, of course, but this has been written in guidance of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has guided him to get all this written. To get all this written has been received divine guidance to write these huge voluminous works, Risale-i Nur. Therefore, it has been titled as Risale-i Nur, letters of divine light. If that is the case, then this is important not to the Turks, not to the Kurds or Turks, but the entire nation of the human being. As the Abrahamic tradition we belong to. We belong to the Abrahamic tradition. So this also belongs to the whole nation. Then that is the way Nursi responded to the persecutions. This is the teaching and lesson we can draw up. We can draw a conclusion. So why did not Nursi go for applying force? He simply began to writing. He simply began to record his ideas. He told that I would have a jihad. Jihad, which type of jihad? Not of sword, but non-physical jihad. Jihad of the word and positive jihad. That was the stance of Badiuzzzaman Nursi, Sayyid Nursi, that he was opting for jihad. But jihad he styled as jihad of the word, non-physical jihad and positive jihad. Positive jihad, non-physical jihad and jihad of the word, and all its explanations are recorded in his Risale-i Nur. So why? In present day context, when extremism is on the rising, when we witness extremist ideas, Jangis, or non-liberal extremist forces emerging of these forces, then we need to recall the writings of Badiuzzzaman Nursi. Badiuzzzaman Nursi was advocating for non-violence, non-physical jihad, which many extremist groups all over the world are now striving to force. So in this context of this present scenario, when extremist forces are on the rise, when they are killing people, when they are capturing people, when they are persecuting people, when they are destroying civilizations, in this critical juncture, we need to recall the teachings and learnings of Badiuzzzaman Nursi, because he taught even when he himself became victims to persecution. Even then, he was preaching these wonderful ideas. Even today, we do recall his departed soul, and we pay our homage to him, recognizing his contribution, which is very much relevant to present day context. I understand that the conference will be focusing on different aspects of Nursi's ideas, which he has got recorded in his Risale-i Nursi, and if this is disseminated, and I hope that our friends from Indonesia, from Bangladesh, our colleagues from Bangladesh, Jordan, and some different parts of the world who have joined this conference will be just the flag bearer of Nursi's ideas, and that will make very positive contribution in maintaining tranquility and peace all over the world, for which Islam stands for. Islam stands for peace and tranquility. And I understand that if Nursi's teachings and ideas are disseminated in a very proper way, as the Islamic Foundation for Science and Culture is doing, I hope the world will get a very wonderful heritage that the Osmanlis built up over the centuries in the 15th, 16th and 17th century, which Nursi also belongs to. I am very fortunate to be here, and I especially thank Professor Dr. Faris Kaya, who became the key person in giving the permission of holding the Dhaka conference under the sponsorship of his wonderful Istanbul Foundation, and also the other distinguished members associated with this, the Waqfa institution. I congratulate them for being the flag bearer of Nursi's peace-loving ideas and thoughts. And once again, I would also like to thank my friend who was the member of the parliament who had the opportunity to visit Dhaka last year. Probably I will be meeting him in the couple of days. And Mr. Salahuddin Saidi, who coordinates between these two countries, who also works for this institution. And he is a so sincere man that he not only coordinates, he at the time just represents this wonderful organization that hosts this distinct event where scholars from home and abroad gather to make a common platform for preaching Nursi's ideas and thoughts. With this note, once again I am very much thankful to Istanbul Foundation and his distinguished members for holding this wonderful international conference, and I understand that each and every participants of this conference will be having a very sweet memory, because this is not only the participation of this international conference, but this is also a very rare opportunity to get and have the chance of visiting many historical sites which the Osmanlis built in the 15th, 16th and 17th centuries. They're part of history. With this note, once again, I would like to thank you all. Thank you indeed. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullah.
We thank a lot to Professor Dr. Muhammed Akhtaruzzaman for his comprehensive, enlightening, informative speech. We learned a lot about the great social, ideological, political change took place in the 19th century and 20th centuries with a great fine insight, and also the role and endeavors of Bediüzzaman Said Nursi to save the lives and the beliefs of Muslims and of human beings throughout these great chains. Thank you very much, sir. Now, Professor Dr. Faris Kaya will make his speech.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Dear Professor Akhtaruzzaman, I cannot hide, my amazing and shocking while listening to your comprehensive talk regarding Ottoman history and Said Nursi's basic talents. Thank you very much. And you are a great chance between Turkey and Bangladesh, inshallah. You will be a good bridge. University of Dhaka and your scholars, your team, and yourself. And before I begin my talk, I would like to invite Muhammed Fırıncı abi, who is Said Nursi's one of his living disciple. Maybe he can say a few words. and also Ihsan Qasim Salihi, who has translated Risale-i Nur from A to Z into Arabic. Also, Shukran Wahide, she is here. She has translated Risale-i Nur from Turkish to English.
I see.
Yes. And can you come? Gelebilir misiniz abi? Birer cümle. Siz de İhsan abi de Şükran Hanım da. Şükran Hanım, bir cümle buradan söylemenizi ben arzu ediyorum. Kendi söz hakkımı sizlere veriyorum. İhsan abi buyurun. Few words.
Before he starts, with the permission of the chair,
Yes.
okay. Before he speaks, dear distinguished audience, I would like to add a few words to my address. That how let him join us.
Yeah.
He will be joining here.
Yes.
Okay.
Few words. I want.
Yeah. Assalamu alaikum. Good to see you. Ahlan wa sahlan.
He has translated into Arabic.
I see.
Yeah.
He will be?
İhsan abi şöyle buyurun.
Baksana, bir tane daha getirebilir misiniz?
Gerek yok.
Gerek yok.
Şey yapmayalım. Zaten zaman açısından.
Good to see you. Good to see you. Salam.
He was a young man. At the age of 20, he hosted Nursi about 3 months in his house in Istanbul,
Okay.
1952.
Okay. Should we add now or after him?
No. Let them say a few words.
What should I want to add? I would like to add that Bangladesh particularly, always stood for the cause of Turkey during all its peace-loving, peaceful persuasions against all extremism, and particularly the University of Dhaka that came into being in 1921, which just after 3 years will celebrate its centenary, is the cradle of democracy, human rights, and what should we say, secularism. But secularism that does not exclude the entailment of religion. Bangladesh is in fact a country which has 95% majority Muslims, is a peace-loving, liberal Muslims. And the father of the nation, Bangabandhu Sheikh Mujibur Rahman, who gave birth to Bangladesh in 1971, always addressing that the world should follow the Bangladesh tradition of religion and secularism. This combination of two ideas, Bangladesh is a very wonderful glaring instance, which is continuing still in my country. The Turkish history and Bangladesh history, in fact, go in one line. This is my note I would like to add to my address. Thank you so much.
İslam dünyasından ve hususen böyle Bangladeş'ten bu kadar himmetle, gayretle buralara kadar Risale-i Nur hakikatlerinin de oralarda inkişaf etmiş olmasına çok memnun olduk ve hususen Sayın Rektörümüze çok teşekkür ederiz. Bütün cemaate de teşekkür ederiz.
scholars from different parts of world, especially from Bangladesh, and especially Vice Chancellor of University of Dhaka, Professor Akhtar Zaman. And you are welcome by all means, being our guest. İhsan abi. Şükran Hanım. Şükran Hanım siz buyurun. İngilizce daha uygun olur. Ben de tercümeden kurtarmış olursunuz.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I wasn't expecting to have to say anything, so you'll have to excuse me, but I'd like to say welcome to everybody, and what a great honour it is to be able to attend. And also, just as Professor said earlier, Ustad Said Nursi's ideas, how far-sighted they were, and with his positive thinking, his positive action, and jihad of the word, how far-sighted it was. And now, 50 years after his death, how people from all over the world are coming together to discuss his ideas in a positive way, to make a positive contribution to developments in the world.
Sure.
So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sister. İhsan abi, birkaç cümle.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله ومن والاه. في الحقيقة أولا نشكر الضيوف الكرام كلهم، وأنا في الحقيقة أريد أقول شيء معروف لدى الجميع. لماذا هذا الاهتمام لرسائل النور؟ يأتي أستاذ كريم وأساتذة كرام من بنغلاديش ومن إندونيسيا وسابقا أتوا من أماكن أخرى. السبب هو قرآنية المصدر. الرسائل النور لأنها ملك القرآن، ليس ملك سعيد النورسي ولا ملك الأتراك ولا أي شيء آخر، وإنما رسائل النور ملك القرآن. فلهذا كل مسلم له حق في رسائل النور. والسلام عليكم.
Assalamu alaikum. I have been told that to translate it, so that I am here. He said that I would like to express my heartfelt thanks to the audience, our distinguished guests from different countries and universities. And he said, I like to impress on one point, that why all those scholars from Bangladesh and other countries over here, everybody are talking about Rasail-e-Nur. The cause is that Rasail-e-Nur entirely is the empire of Quran, Quranic empire. He is talking about the signature and insights of Quran. For that, everyone is feeling attraction to the Rasail-e-Nur over the ages. This is the cause. Thank you.
Teşekkür ederiz. Size zahmet verdik. Sister Shukran Wahide and Ustad Ihsan Qasim, to be known that one of them has translated into English, the other one into Arabic. And as you know, Ustad Ihsan is from Iraq and Sister Shukran is from England. So they are not Turk, you know. So to say, and this shows that how Nursi was an international scholar.
Yes.
And in the past and today, Alhamdulillah, worldwidely, more than 100 conferences and symposia took place everywhere in the world. I think about over 20 in Indonesia. So many different places. However, now I would like welcome all of you to Istanbul, and one of the beautiful city of the world, not in Turkey only. And I, inshallah, would expect that you will visit certain places if you have not been done in the past. And our special thanks and gratitude to Professor Akhtaruzzaman, who has really hosted first international symposium in University of Dhaka in Bangladesh. This is a first thing in our culture. First thing has special respect and special gratitude. Yeah. And also we would like to give our thanks to scholars who came all over the way from Bangladesh to Istanbul to make this symposium and conference successful. Now we have a Vice Chancellor again here from University of Zanzibar, from Tanzania, Professor Mustafa. You are welcome. And also Professor Yunus, he is the Dean of Faculty of Sharia from Sudan again. And we have several scholars, I can't say or call them by name, all of them from Indonesia, from Darussalam, from Pusantran, from Darun Najah and other institutions. If I forget your institution's name, please forgive me, because they are from more than 5-6 different universities. They came all the way from Indonesia to study Said Nursi in depth, and inshallah to take back to Indonesia. And dear Vice Chancellor, I am really shocked with your comprehensive knowledge, rightly knowledge about Ottoman, and also a few words you said about Said Nursi's key ideas, which make difference from other scholars. Also, I just want to say a few words. Those who have been organizing these people all together to come together, like Salahuddin from Bangladesh and other young brothers who has done great work to bring all of us together. Now, I would like to begin with Professor Akhtaruzzaman's last point regarding Said Nursi's thought and idea and action being positive action. It is very important. Before that, I know that there are several scholars of Sharia and religion, Islam, between us, that there are two important hadiths of Prophet ﷺ. One is Al-Ulama Warasatul Anbiya, and Al-Ulama Ummati Ke Anbiya Bani Israel. Now, in this respect, Said Nursi is an alim, a scholar, who is the successor of Prophet ﷺ. As we know that there is no going to come any prophet after him, but scholars will succeed his mission, okay? We all agree on that. In this respect, let's see how Said Nursi takes this. When he gave a khutbah Shamia, I am sure that most of you have read it, in 1911. He came to Istanbul in 1907 to present his projects regarding educational system of Ottoman of that time. And there were three types of educational institution. One was madrasa, one was school, the other one was taqiyya, Sufi orders, okay? And these three things were, in dispute with each other. So he actually made the project that combining three of them together.
Yes.
He came to Istanbul to visit Sultan Abdul Hamid, but unfortunately, due to his, strong surroundings, he was unable to meet with him. But of course, he announced about his project, etc. spending about 3 years in Istanbul, he was disappointed with the political, chaos of that time, just before, what we call it, Ittihad al-Taraqi, that took place and overthrow Sultan Abdul Hamid. He was disappointed with the political chaos in Istanbul. He wanted to visit intellectual capital of Ottoman. That was Damascus of time. He went there and he was asked to give a khutbah sermon called Khutbah Shamiyah, Damascus sermon in 1911. And there he began with this hadith: Ji'tu utammima makarim al-akhlaq. So Prophet ﷺ was saying that I have been sent to complete moral values. So moral values are very important in any religion, not only in Islam, in Christianity, in Judaism, in even not heavenly religions. Moral values, akhlaq, is a central thing that people should, follow. And also, Prophet ﷺ said that ad-dinu nasiha, means deen, religion, is advice. Advice. But what kind of advice? Okay. And if we follow Prophet ﷺ's step, we can get, correct way of advice from him. I have just read in a book that Prophet ﷺ was teaching his cousin, Ali ibn Abi Talib, okay, teaching him, don't lie, and then following him for several months, whether he is lying or not. When he saw that he is refraining from lying, then he was teaching him another moral value, okay, and then following him after certain months and say weeks, seeing that he is not doing that bad thing, then again another one, like this. And also Prophet ﷺ was teaching his companions certain verses of Quran, and then following if they are really committed to those verses or not. After say certain trial and months, and then teaching some other moral values of what Quran is advising us. Now, so can you please switch your telephones off? I am a lecturer at the university. You see, I am a bit annoyed. Please kindly. I know that you are important people. People will call you, but please switch them off, okay? Until the end of my talk is not going to be long. Anyway, now what sort of advice? Sometimes you find people are advising with gesture, okay? Sometimes they are advising with words. Don't do that, do that. Sometimes they are advising with their behavior. Sometimes they are advising with educational institutions like schools, universities. In our Muslim culture, we have madrasa, Sufi schools, etc. Sometimes they are advising with tariqa, like sometimes they are advising with ilmi kalam, means that they are explaining the truth of Quran and Islam in a technical way, okay, with logical and philosophical teaching system, in order to make those advices permanent. And sometimes they are using political institutions to issue laws and regulations, and to make society run smoothly. And all of them are advices. Unfortunately, some people are advising with stick.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Yeah. So they they are not doing gesture, words, behavior, education, Sufi way, Kalami way, politics, but they want to use stick. This is dangerous. And it was dangerous during the Prophet ﷺ's time and during whole history, and today also it is very dangerous. Then clashes, disunity, chaos, dispute, and all kind of, physical damages, physical and psychological and spiritual damages begins. So let us see what Nursi think as Vice Chancellor pointed out. Now, I just want to be very short about spiritual institution like Qadiri Tariqa. They are attacking at seven levels of nafs, soul. They say that nafs, ammara, lawwama, mulhima, etc. But 7. To pass each level, you need to have, different type of reading, different type of zikr, different type of, night prayer, fasting, etc. Okay, and we have in Naqshi Tariqa, we have Lataifi Ashara, 10 Lataif of spirit. They want to clean them. They are attacking with them. And we have Kalami scholars also. They teach the principles of Quran and Hadith and Sunnah with logical and philosophical manners. And we know that politicians, they do rules and regulations. What Nursi says, the ways leading to Almighty Allah are truly numerous. So there are several. He approves them. He accepts them. All of them. What I said. While all true ways are taken from the Quran. Some are shorter. Okay? Safer and more general than others. Means that covering maybe 80%, 90% of human, nature, human fitra, to say. Nature is wrong word, but fitra is the right word, that Allah given us to live according. So Nursi is saying that some ways are shorter, more comprehensive, more effective, more suitable to the fitra of most of us people. One of these is the way of impotence. Impotence, ajz. If you read Quran always is teaching us our impotence. That we are ajiz, we are weak. And impotence, poverty, that we are poor. Now look at, I am breathing air. If that would have been with money, imagine how life was going to be, unbearable. Expensive and unbearable. Unbearable. So we are poor. And Quran is teaching us our poverty, that we are poor. Everything that essential for our life, Allah has given endlessly, okay, and free of charge. And compassion. So Quran is teaching us to be compassionate to other people, to animals even. Now we see in Nursi's life, for example, in the prison, when his students used to wash their clothes and then hang up on a rope, and once they saw that there are a lot of insects, flies on the rope, and then one of his students, he just made like this so that they run away, and then he will put his wet cloth. Nursi said, don't do it. He said, why? He said, rope belong to them. Let them, enjoy their, presence there, And then Nursi's students said that they should find different place for themselves. He said, you can find different place for yourself. So imagine how he was respectful even to flies. Today we cannot stand. Yeah. And other, animals. So the way is compassion and reflection, tafakkur, contemplation. So these 4 principles, Nursi proves that Quran is based mostly on these 4 principles: ajz, faqr, shafqat, tafakkur. And regarding conveying the message of Quran, Nursi is on the side of education and training. He says that since corruption and destruction of the time is spiritual, hence the correction and jihad of the time also needs to be spiritual. Physical jihad is only allowed when there is outsiders attack to defend yourself. And he gives examples of hadith and sunnah. For example, the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah. If you study the conditions of Hudaybiyah, it was for 10 years, but it ended just less than 2 years' time. And it was a successful, actually, if you call it political, if you call it spiritual, if you call it, whatever it is, success of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's, taking Mecca back. I don't say conquer, because Mecca always was conquered, in the heart of people. And he gives a good example, the peace treaty of Hudaybiyah. So he says that since corruption and destruction of this time is spiritual, hence the correction, jihad of the time also needs to be spiritual. Physical jihad is allowed only when there is outsider attack. So it goes like that. Yeah. And he calls it a positive action. For Nursi, basically what it means in practice to be positive. In short, don't deal with others' mistakes and lackings, but put forward your views and ideas positively, without physical interaction, without damaging the social, relations of the community, without destroying the society's bonds that binds people together, etc. And I would like to give another example regarding his positive action. Once Nursi's students, they had fried meat in a barrel, and when the door was open and a dog went into the room and ate that fried meat, okay, and his students started making dog go away, and then started talking a lot, backbiting dog, and he said that don't backbite dog. If you leave your door open, the animal hungry will come and then eat it. And then they said, Ustad, is backbiting haram, illicit, about dog as well? He said, yes. How? He said, if you backbite dog, you will get used to it, and then you will backbite your human fellow. And this is the beginning of all disputes and uneasy life in the society. Okay, makes life unbearable. Now, these are the two different examples about Said Nursi's positive action. He was exiled from 1926 till he died in 1960 on exile, as their Vice Chancellor said in his presentation. He always thought that this exile and imprisonment for him is a kind of a barrier in front of him to make him feel sincere. Okay, not to be proud, not to be having sort of show, etc., etc. Okay, and he was always thinking about his own sins and to be more humble, and humility was a central action in his, not only in his action but in his thought as well. Once he was talking about being humble, humility. He said that I gave advice to, without mentioning his name, that person, and later on I found that my words did not affect him, and I was wondered why, and I found that I couldn't correct myself so that I couldn't able to affect him. So the first thing is that we have to care about ourselves, think about ourselves, and because we are responsible in front of Allah, not others. Now I just want, he gave me, notice. It is not my habit actually to continue when I was given notice. I am sure that you have gone through Risale-i Nur. There are major 4 books are words, flashes, rays, and mektubat, letters. Yeah, letters. And these 4 books covers mainly 4 aspects of Quran. What Quran teaches. Quran teaches us Tawheed, the existence and unity of Allah by proving. And Quran teaches us the books, like in general Torah, Bible, and Quran. Of course, Quran is the last one, covers all of them. And teaches us Prophet, and teaches us to be just. Quran teaches us to be just. Justice is a central, central topic or central part of that Quran is based on. So in these 4 books, and there are other smaller books like Masnavi Nuriye, which Nursi wrote before Turkey became republic, but he calls it Old Said time, and also Isharatul Ijaz about the miraculousness of Quran. So miraculousness of Quran is a major part in Said Nursi's writing. For example, in words also, in different part of other books also you can see, but Isharatul Ijaz, miraculousness of Quran, is a unique book. If someone really wants to be scholar of Said Nursi and Risale-i Nur, needs to read. And also in Said Nursi's writing there are prophetic histories, what in Arabic is called Qisas-ı Enbiya. Yeah. In Risale-i Nur, very well interpreted. Like what? when you read Qisas Anbiya, you want to practice in your life. You don't say that, you don't think that, oh, the history of such and such prophet is like that. For example, first flash regarding the story of Yunus alayhi salam when he was thrown into the sea and swallowed by fish, etc. Also about Hashr, resurrection, and Qadar, destiny, is an important topic in Islam. About youth, elderly people, as you've said, about sick, ill people, ill people, about women, about universe, and a very important topic about ego, how to train our ego, ana, to be in the line of teaching of Quran and Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. About fasting, why do we fast? About prayer, for example, we do salat. Why 5 times a day? Why? Why not 6? Why not 3 and 4? About the timing also, he gives very ingenious explanation about, for example, morning prayer before sunrise, noon time, asr time, maghrib time, isha time, tahajjud time, etc., etc. So Nursi actually combines Quran with universe. So for him, universe and Quran are interpreting each other, are supporting each other. So if we want to understand why universe stands for, please read Quran. If we want to understand why Quran stands for, read the book of universe. That is what we call it physical sciences, chemistry, biology, etc. And it goes like that. I just sincerely think that I am the last person to give any talk about Risale-i Nur. But unfortunately, it is, sometimes it happens that you have to do your job, And I wanted, to give, to show my great respect and importance your being here. So that's why I'm here. Thank you very much for listening to me.
We thank a lot to Professor Faris Kaya Ağabey for his fine lecture about Risale-i Nur.